Today, my name is Michael Mastro. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today, we're going to look at the chart of Elvis Presley in terms of his successes and health issues. If you look to the eastern horizon when he was born using Vedic astrology, the sidereal zodiac, you would see the constellation associated with Scorpio rising at 19 degrees. 19 degrees becomes very important. It is the most effective point of every house, and any planet like Mars and Sun that are within 5 degrees have a lot of impact in the chart. So we're going to look and see how the planets are operating, and then we'll look at timing of events, when they're operating, and what could be done to remedy the chart. So first off, we'll look at Sun. And Sun is ruling the career house, and it is placed in the second house of wealth and fame and continuation of the marital bond. And this house also is connected with the throat and the voice. So it says that he can have leadership abilities in a career associated with the voice. It is connect. Now it is afflicted by Mars, so there can be some setbacks with that. But it's also conjunct Mercury. Mercury has to do with communication. So this setup here gives um, the ability to be successful at a singing career. Now Moon is ruling the house of good fortune and religion and belief, and it is placed in the fourth house that has to do with happiness, home life, as well as property. And so it connects good, he gains good fortune through Moon, which has to do with the public, and also um, the ability to perform for the public, and this gives him happiness. Now, Moon is weak because its dispositor, which is Saturn, is weak. So Saturn is weak because it's in infant state. Any planet that's less than 5 degrees is said to be in infant state, and any planet that's greater than 25 degrees is said to be in old age, like Mercury, um, because infants and elderly people cannot promote or protect their own significations. So, Moon being weak has to do with uh, the heart and lungs. He did have emphysema. Now, Sun, I forgot to mention, being weak and afflicted by K2, um, afflicted by Mars, brings inflammation. Sun is the heart, so inflammation to the heart. He did have arteriosclerosis as well as hypertension, and and it also affects the digestion, which can lead to diabetes and issues like that when Jupiter and Venus are also compromised, which they are in his chart. So, so we can see a lot of indicators for issues with the heart already, with Sun and Moon and Saturn being weak, the ruler of that house of the heart. So now Moon also has to do with the autoimmune system. It's the lymph and the immune. So also had compromised immune system. So let's see. Um, we're gonna look at Mars. Now, any multicona sign 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 9, and 11 that rules the 6th, the 8th, or the 12th houses. These are called the Dustana, or challenging houses. They become what we say challenging or functional malefic along with Rahu and Ketu that are malefic for every chart. That does not mean they necessarily will cause harm, but they creates stress that affects his health, and uh, and as well as it's afflicting Sun, just barely though, within a degree or so. Um, now, and then it's afflicting the fifth house. Now, the fifth house has to do with liver, uh, and that affects diabetes, as well as it can limit the number of children. The fifth house has to do with children. And let's see, also afflicts the sixth house, which is the house of health. And so he gave him poor health because it's afflicted. And also, that house has to do with constipation. So, let's see here. And Mars afflicting these houses also can cause accidents. So he did have a serious brain injury, and they can cause inflammation to any of the houses there, as well as the Sun because it's afflicted by Mars. Now Venus is also functionally malefic because its multicona sign Libra is in the 12th house. I forgot to mention that the multicona sign ruler of the first, the sixth, or the Sun becomes the prime indicator. And in this case, there's no prime indicator in it becomes the prime indicator self. So a lot of these, you see that a lot of his issues, diabetes, constipation, health issues, accidents, inflammation, all, and also afflicting the 11th house itself has to do with limiting friends, making him feel isolated. As many famous people, they feel like they're in a fishbowl and they get paranoid and leads to depression and things like that. So let's look at Mercury. Mercury is in old age. It is ruling the house of income and friendships, and it is aspecting the Sun. So it gives income through Mercury itself, communication, and the second house, which has to do with the voice. So his income through singing and fame and wealth is all connected there as well. Now, Mercury being weak, it can affect the intellect, the memory, it can affect depression, the ability to not be addicted to things. So he had some addictions as well. And let's look at Jupiter. So Jupiter is poorly placed in just slightly over 25 degrees, but mainly poorly placed in the 12th house. It rules um, this second house. So wealth and fame um, are connected to Jupiter. Now, Jupiter sitting here can help some careers, and it actually helps him take on the role of being a performer. No matter how bad he feels, he knows he has to go out there and it says that there can be some losses and some feeling of separation, which he definitely had living in a fishbowl, being a famous person. And Venus is placed in the house of success. So, and it's afflicting Rahu, and Rahu is afflicting Venus. So Venus itself is performing arts, and the third house has to do with performing arts. So Rahu and Venus there, I think, we're giving ambition and drive to be successful in performing arts. And Venus, again, this ruling this house of being able to separate yourself to take on the role that he did as being the king, the performer. Now, Venus being afflicted, has to do with longevity. He died very young, and the 12th house also has to do with the immune system. So autoimmune was affected, and then this is also the houses of addictions. So some issues with that and divorce, all of that. He did have some interest in astrology, so that house also can be connected to that. So Saturn is very weak at 2 degrees infant state, and it is ruling the house that has to do with happiness. So there's some depression. The family was affected, stress in the family, so divorce. And then also this house has to do with heart and lungs. So again, we're finding, 4 or 5 indicators that there will be heart issues and lung issues. He did have emphysema. And Saturn itself has to do with longevity. So he died very young. Let's see. Now we'll look at Rahu and Ketu. Again, they're functional malefic for every house. So Rahu and Ketu are giving some ambition for success and some spiritual nature. He was somewhat religious. And K2 afflicts Venus, which affects our longevity, the 12th house, as well as autoimmune, addiction, etc., and separation in marriage. So these are the main things of the chart, the main points. Now, what could we do? Let's look at the timing of events. So if we look at Scorpio itself, it's a fixed water sign. So that makes him passionate, emotional, which gives that passion to singing, which made him successful. And the fixed part of it makes him a little bit inflexible. And Pitta is associated with Scorpio. So there is that inflammation affecting the heart, arteriosclerosis, and hypertension. He got married during a Jupiter period in 55. Jupiter being associated with the marital bond. And then he had a very serious head injury when he fell and hit his head on a bathtub, and brain injury was triggered by a Saturn period. Natal Rahu was afflicting transit Saturn. So this affected transit Saturn, and K2 was afflicting Mercury, as well as the 6th, 8th, and the 12th house. So this, the 8th house and the 6th house can do with accidents, and K2 afflicts the Mercury, which is the mind. So health was triggered, chronic health was triggered, as well as the immune system. So health and death-like experience, being knocked out, chronic brain injury. And this all triggered this autoimmune situation that affected his heart later in life. Now, he got a divorce during a Venus period, which is end of marriage, in 73, and then he had a heart attack and died in August 16th of 1977. And that was during a Saturn moon period, moon again having to do with the heart, Saturn ruling the house of heart. K2, which gives chronic issues, afflicting the first house, which is the body and the longevity, as well as and K2 is also afflicting Saturn, which is again the heart and the longevity. So those are the thing. If you would like to get a reading or learn transformational Vedic astrology, you can go to vastucreations.com. Thank you so much for listening.